Have you ever wondered what would happen if the government decided to tax your shadow? Or maybe charge you extra for being too tall? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into the absolutely mind-blowing world of taxation that will make you question everything you thought you knew about how governments collect money. These aren't theoretical concepts or ancient history. These are real laws that exist right now, affecting real people in ways that will leave you scratching your head, and maybe even laughing out loud. Picture this. You wake up tomorrow and discover that your government has decided to tax the air you breathe based on how much carbon dioxide you exhale. Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, after today's journey through the strangest tax codes on planet Earth, that scenario might not seem so far-fetched anymore. We're about to explore 10.7 of the most unusual, bizarre, and downright shocking tax laws that governments have actually implemented. And trust me, number 7 will completely blow your mind. But before we jump into this rabbit hole of fiscal insanity, let's think about why these laws exist in the first place. Governments need revenue, and sometimes they get creative in ways that would make even the most imaginative fiction writers jealous. What you're about to discover isn't just entertainment. It's a fascinating glimpse into human psychology, cultural values, and the sometimes desperate lengths governments will go to fill their coffers. Let's start our journey in ancient Rome, where they had a tax that would make modern taxpayers revolt. The Romans actually implemented a urine tax. Yes, you heard that correctly. Emperor Vespasian decided that urine was valuable enough to tax because it was collected from public restrooms and used for various purposes, including teeth whitening and leather processing. When his son complained about the disgusting nature of this revenue source, Vespasian reportedly held up a gold coin and said, "Money has no odor." This phrase became so famous that public urinals in France are still called Vespasiennes today. Moving forward in time, but not necessarily in logic, let's talk about Sweden's television tax that operated on the honor system. For decades, Swedish citizens were required to pay an annual fee for owning a television. But here's the kicker. The government relied almost entirely on people voluntarily reporting their TV ownership. They did have detection vans that could theoretically identify television signals, but the system was largely based on citizens honestly declaring their entertainment devices. This created a fascinating social experiment in collective honesty that lasted for generations. Now, if you think those examples are strange, wait until you hear about New Zealand's flatulence tax proposal. In the early 2000s, the government seriously considered implementing a tax on livestock emissions, specifically targeting the methane produced by sheep and cattle burping and passing gas. Farmers would have been charged based on the estimated greenhouse gas output of their animals. The proposal was so unpopular that protesters actually drove tractors to Parliament, and the plan was eventually abandoned. But the fact that it was seriously considered shows just how creative governments can get when searching for new revenue streams. Let's hop over to Belgium, where they have a tax that targets something most of us do without thinking: barbecuing. The Walloon region implemented a tax on outdoor grilling, arguing that barbecues contribute to air pollution and should therefore be subject to environmental fees. Citizens are supposed to report their barbecue usage and pay accordingly, though enforcement remains somewhat mysterious. Imagine having to calculate your summer cookout emissions for tax purposes. But perhaps nowhere is taxation more creative than in certain parts of Germany, where there's a tax on second homes that gets progressively more expensive based on how little you use the property. This isn't just a simple ownership tax, it's calculated based on occupancy rates, meaning the less time you spend at your vacation home, the more you pay. It's essentially a tax on having the audacity to own property you don't live in full-time. In the realm of truly bizarre personal taxes, Some jurisdictions have implemented height and weight-based fees. While not common, there have been proposals and limited implementations of taxes that charge citizens based on their physical dimensions, with the logic being that larger people consume more resources and should contribute accordingly. These proposals typically face massive public backlash and legal challenges, but the fact that they're even considered reveals the lengths some governments will go to find new tax categories. The digital age has brought its own strange taxation challenges. Estonia has experimented with taxes on digital storage, essentially charging citizens for the amount of data they store in cloud services. The logic is that data storage requires physical infrastructure and energy consumption, making it a taxable resource. Citizens receive annual statements detailing their digital footprint and corresponding tax obligations. Perhaps the most philosophically challenging tax concept comes from certain economic theorists who have proposed taxing potential rather than actual income. This theoretical framework would assess individuals based on what they could potentially earn given their education, skills, and opportunities, rather than what they actually make. While this remains largely theoretical, some pilot programs have experimented with elements of this approach, creating fascinating questions about individual choice and societal contribution. One of the most unusual enforcement mechanisms involves taxes on illegal activities. Many jurisdictions technically require criminals to report and pay taxes on income from illegal sources. This creates the surreal situation where drug dealers and other criminals are supposed to file tax returns declaring their illicit earnings. Failure to do so can result in tax evasion charges even if the underlying criminal activity is never proven in court. The environmental movement has spawned some truly creative taxation approaches. Beyond carbon taxes, some regions have implemented shadow taxes, literal taxes on the shadows cast by buildings and structures. The logic is that shadows deprive neighboring properties of sunlight and solar energy potential, creating a measurable economic impact that should be compensated through taxation. Now, for our point 7 that I promised would blow your mind. There are places where governments tax silence. In certain urban areas struggling with noise pollution, property owners can be charged based on the acoustic footprint of their buildings. Quieter buildings receive tax credits, while properties that contribute to noise pollution face penalties. It's essentially taxing the absence of sound, which challenges our fundamental understanding of what constitutes taxable activity. These unusual tax laws reveal something profound about human societies and governance. They show us how governments adapt to changing circumstances, cultural values, and economic pressures. Some of these taxes succeed in changing behavior, others fail spectacularly, and many exist in legal limbo, where enforcement is practically impossible, but the laws remain on the books. What's particularly fascinating is how these unusual taxes often reflect deeper societal tensions. The barbecue tax represents environmental concerns versus personal freedom. The potential income tax raises questions about individual choice versus social obligation. The urine tax shows how desperate governments can become for revenue sources. Understanding these bizarre taxation examples isn't just about entertainment. It provides valuable insights into how fiscal policy works, how governments think about revenue generation, and how citizens respond to unusual demands on their wallets. It also helps us appreciate the relatively straightforward nature of most conventional taxes, even when we complain about them. These examples demonstrate that taxation is far more creative and varied than most people realize. Governments worldwide continue to innovate in ways that would surprise even experienced tax professionals. And as societies evolve, we can expect even more unusual approaches to emerge. The next time you file your taxes, remember that somewhere in the world, someone might be calculating their barbecue emissions or measuring their building's shadow for tax purposes.